Let's look at finding trig functions for large angles. We start out by graphing our angle of 315. Our terminal side is in the fourth quadrant. We don't normally find trig functions straight from larger angles. We use what's called reference angles. Reference angles can be found by either adding or subtracting in order to find out what the angle is from the terminal side to the x-axis. In this case, we know one complete revolution, starting at the positive x-axis all the way around, is 360 degrees. If we subtract our 315 from that, that gives us 45 degrees. So we have a 45 degree reference angle. If we draw a line from the terminal side back to the positive x-axis, we'll find that makes a 90 degree angle, giving us a 45 degree right triangle. We know from earlier lessons that the ratio of the sides of a 45 degree right triangle are 1 square root of 2. Now we have to decide which quadrant is in, do we give these numbers signs. Since it's in the fourth quadrant, you'd be in the positive x-axis, so the one on top here would stay a positive 1. However, this one here, since it's going down into the fourth quadrant, would be a negative 1. Now we can find our sine value. So the sine of 315 would be the opposite, which would be the negative 1, over the hypotenuse, which would be the square root of 2. We can't leave our answer like this because you can't have a radical in the denominator of a fraction, so we'll do what's called rationalizing the denominator. We'll multiply the top and bottom by the square root of 2, and so that'll give us negative square root of 2. And anytime you multiply a square root times itself, you'll get whatever's underneath the radical. So we end up with negative square root of 2 over 2. And if we want to find the cosine of 315, we would do the adjacent side, which would be the positive 1, over the hypotenuse, which would be the square root of 2. And do the same thing again, rationalizing the denominator. And so we end up this time with positive square root of 2 over 2. And finally, if we're looking for the tangent of 315, we'd say the opposite over the adjacent, which would end up being negative 1.